Hello everyone, welcome to the module 9 of my training program, and this module is around Selenium WebDriver. Okay, this is the very first module of Selenium WebDriver, right? Now in this module, okay, we're gonna talk about what is Selenium, right? We'll just talk about what Selenium was, what were different suite of software Selenium was offering. Then we'll talk about how do we configure Selenium on our machine, and then we'll learn some basic programs of Selenium, right? Right. Now, what is Selenium? Okay. So, if you go to the official website of Selenium, that is seleniumhq.org, okay. So, on the very top, we can see that Selenium automate browsers. Okay. So, having said that, okay. So let's say you have a website, amazon.com or ebay.com, right? So it's a web-based application, correct? So Selenium can automate web-based applications only, right? It cannot automate Windows-based application, or maybe mainframe-based application, or maybe any other automation it cannot do. Okay. Now Selenium, now there is another thing about Selenium is that, okay, Selenium offers certain suite of tools, okay. Now what they are, okay, let's try to understand them. Okay, so let me open Paint, right? So Selenium, they, as I said, Selenium provides suite of softwares, right? So if you see here the what they are, okay, so the very first component or other software Selenium offers is Selenium ID. Okay, now this is, guys, this is a Firefox plugin. Okay, this is a simply Firefox plugin. Okay, and it's a record and play, meaning you can just start recording with this plugin and it would record all of your steps. So let me show you. Okay, so if I open my Firefox, and if you see here, just a second. Okay, so this is the icon. Okay, so all you have to do is just do Google and just add this plugin to your Firefox, and once it gets added, okay, you will see a icon like this coming on your machine, right? So let me click on this icon, and so this is the window which is launched now, right? So this is nothing but Selenium ID, okay, and the version is 2.9.1. Okay, now what happens here is that if you see, when you open this Selenium ID, it opens in record mode by default. Okay, and all you have to do is once it goes in record mode, you just maybe fire certain commands, right? For example, let me go to Google and I'll just say here Selenium ID plugin for Firefox, right? And for example, I go here like this, right? So I have performed couple of steps here, right? And so if you see here, you can add this ID. This is how you add ID to your Firefox. Okay, but so as in when you perform the steps, those steps will get recorded in your ID. Okay, now unfortunately the reason it's not getting recorded on my machine is because now this ID is no more supported for Firefox browser above 54. Okay, and my Firefox version is 55. Okay, so that's the reason it is not able to record, and they have in fact officially decommissioned the Selenium ID now, right? So if you see here, see, so they have officially decommissioned this Firefox ID. Now if you see Firefox 50 55 onwards, okay, the bad news from Firefox 55 onwards, Selenium ID will no longer work. Right, so that's the reason nothing was getting recorded here. If you want, install maybe Firefox 54 version and just try to record, you'll see steps getting recorded here. Okay, Now the problem with this ID is that since it's just a record and play, okay, you cannot really do customizations around it. For example, if I want to read data from the Excel sheet, maybe if I want to do a batch execution, if I want to group test cases, define dependencies, perform parallel execution. So these things are not supported by this ID, which is the major disadvantage, right? And this is just a Firefox plugin, right? So it cannot be used on other browsers as well, correct? This is just a Firefox plugin, right? So it is no more available on the other browsers as well. Now in ID, so for example, let's say if I record certain steps, you can convert these steps, okay, into specific language, right? For example, if I write some 10 steps are recorded, I can very well convert that into Java, TestNG, and maybe WebDriver, right? So my code will be automatically generated here, right? So those were beginners to Selenium. What they used to do is they used to record stuff in ID and then convert that into a specific language basically, and then just they used to execute that code in Eclipse. But as I said again, it's not ready-made. Again, you'll have to do a lot of customization even if you convert this code, right? So this is how the first components was introduced by them. Okay, so let me go to MS Paint. Right. So moving on, now after this, okay, they were also having another component called as Selenium RC. Okay, okay, Selenium remote control server. Okay. Now in case of a Selenium RC, okay, the prerequisite was that, okay, I'm sorry, the prerequisite was that you need to start a server first. Okay, so let me show you. So you need to start the Selenium server first, okay, and then you need to execute your scripts which you have written in the Selenium RC, right? Now another challenge with RC was the commands. It was not having all the commands, okay, to operate on web-based application such as handling Windows mainframes. Okay, Selenium RC was not up to the mark, right? Now after this, okay, so they had introduced another component called as grid. Okay, grid was primarily is used for cross-browser testing, right? For example, if I want to test website on multiple browsers, okay, for example, Firefox, Chrome, maybe, or Internet Explorer, and different platforms as well. So grid can be used for that purpose. Okay. Now the whole these three set of softwares, they used to call it as 1.0. Okay, but later on what happened that since Selenium RC was not up to the mark and users were not actively using it, they came up with something called as Selenium WebDriver. Okay, so they came up with Selenium WebDriver 2 series, 2.0 series. Okay, wherein, okay, now of course when they introduced Selenium WebDriver, now what about the projects which were there on RC? So what they did in fact, okay, so they migrated, or rather they also brought forward Selenium RC functionalities in Selenium WebDriver 2.0, right? Now with Selenium 2.0 they were also providing Selenium ID and grid as well. Okay, so they have taken forward this ID as well in 2.0 series and grid 2, right? And this series they were calling at 2.0, right? Now after this again Selenium, so recently from last 4 5 6 months what they did, okay, they came up with another series Okay, and now they are calling it as Selenium 3.0. Okay, so this is a very high level, you know, introduction to Selenium, basically how they have progressed from 1.0 to 2.0, and now currently they are on 3.0, right? So we'll see one by one. Okay, so the major focus in this training will be around WebDriver and Grid, basically, right? Okay, okay, so let's move on now. Now, if you go to the official website of seleniumhq.com and go to the download section, okay, so this is the page from where you can download the Selenium stuff, right? So for example, if I want to download the Selenium WebDriver, right, remember Selenium WebDriver is an API. So, and the current version of it is 3.9.1. Okay, so if you want to configure Selenium WebDriver on your machine, all you have to do from here is just download these jars, right? So let me download them, right? Meanwhile, they also provide something called as changelog here, right? So if I click on this changelog, so changelog typically talks about what changes they have done in different versions, right? For example, the latest one is 3.9.1. Earlier to that they had 3.9.0, right? So what changes they are doing in each region. Okay, now guys, keep in mind, okay, so in the previous diagram I showed you that there were the first series was 1.0, then they came up with 2.0, and now they have 3.0. Okay, so in the 3.0's release, the current version is 3.9.1. Okay, and in the 2.0 series, the most stable version was 2.53, right? And after 2.53, they haven't introduced any more version, right? So if you see here, let me go all the way down. Okay, just a second. So I've downloaded 1 minute. So if you see about, we are talking about the series, right? Just a second. Yeah, so I'm just trying to search 2.53. Come on, where it is. Okay. Right, so if you see here, okay, so the last version of 2.0 series was 2.53. If you see here, final release, okay, and of course they used to publish the comments as well as in what features they have introduced in this feature, right? But after 2.53 they haven't come up with any other release, they straight away jump to 3.0. Do you see? Yeah, now we'll talk about that, what are the differences between Selenium 2.0 versus 3.0. Okay, now so what I did here, if you see, all I did is I just downloaded those jars from here. Okay, so let me show you. Okay, do you see? So when you download from Selenium HQ, it will come in the zip format. So all I have to do is just unzip it. Okay, so I'll just unzip it. Okay, and if you see, it has created a folder. It must have created a folder here. Just a second, let me go to that Selenium. Yeah, so if you see, when you unzip this folder, you'll see these two files. Okay, this is the main file of Selenium, whereas this is a source file, right? It contains the source code basically, whereas under libs again you have couple of more jars, right? Now there is another link over here called a Java doc. Okay, so if you click on this Java doc, Now this is a documentation, guys, wherein you will find all the classes packages related to Selenium, right? Of course you may not know all of them, okay, but just keep in mind wherever you are stuck, if you want to know something about any specific class, you can come here and just read about it. For example, WebDriver, right? As I explained earlier, WebDriver is an interface, right? And it is implemented by these many classes, correct? So Chrome driver is one of the important class. Then you have Firefox driver, then you have Internet Explorer driver, Opera and Safari drivers, right? So this document is useful whenever you want to refer to any of the classes which are provided by Selenium, right? Now let's move on, right? Okay, now what we'll do here, now I'll try to simply create one project. Okay, so if you see here, I will create a project, maybe this project. Okay, now if you want to use Selenium, of course you need to pull those jars in Selenium, right? So just right click and just say build path, configure build path. Okay, just say add external jars, go to the location where your jars are lying. Okay, so let me go here. Okay, and I'll say this is the folder, so just include this jar first and then go to libs and include these jars as well, correct? And just say apply, right? So if you see now, guys, I have imported all the 3.9.1 jars here, right? Now this is how you configure your Selenium WebDriver in Eclipse, right? Now what we will do, we'll simply try and create one program, right? So let me say new class. I'll just say here launch website. Okay, so let's try to write down a very simple program, right? Now guys, here you can either write it in using main method, or you can also write it using @test as well. Anything is fine, right? You can write like this, or if you want, write like this as well. Okay, public void, let's say test launch website in, let's say, I, like this. Okay, it's up to you, okay, what you want to do. Okay, so let me go ahead with main method, right? Now now if I want to launch certain website, maybe let's take example of this website itself, right? I want to launch this website maybe in Chrome browser. Okay, so let me take the address first, right? Now in order to launch website in Chrome driver, Selenium offers you class something called as Chrome driver, right? I'll just say driver new of Chrome driver. So what I will do, I'm just creating an object of Chrome driver class, correct? So let's import this, and if you see, this is coming from the jars which we have imported in our project, right? Do you see org, open, QA, Selenium, Chrome and Chrome driver, right? Now I have created object of Chrome driver, right? Now let's say driver dot get. Okay, of course when I create a object of class, now I can access the methods of this class as well, right? So the very first method we're gonna learn is launch browser, or rather sorry, navigate to given URL on browser, right? So dot get is a method which will navigate to this particular URL on the launch browser, right? So if you see here, a very simple code I have written, and if I try to execute, okay, so this has thrown an exception, and this is an expected exception, right? Of course, I have intentionally have simulated the, and if you see the exception, it says the path to the driver executable must be set, okay, by so and so attribute. Okay, now what is this? And what message it is giving to me. Okay, so let me explain this. Okay, so so here, for example, I have written a code here. Okay, so I've written a code here, right, using of course Java bindings. Okay, and I'm trying to perform this, and what I'm trying to do here basically, I'm trying to execute this code maybe on a Chrome browser, correct? This is my Chrome browser, correct? But in order the Selenium WebDriver, okay, interact with this Chrome browser, the real browser, you need something called as driver actually, okay, something called as Chrome driver here, correct? Okay, without this Chrome driver, this Selenium Java code cannot interact with the real browser, right? And if you see here, the same error we have got here. Okay, it says the path of the driver executable must be set, right? So this Selenium Java code cannot directly interact with the Chrome browser. We need something called as Chrome driver. So, or in other words, we need drivers specific to all browsers. So if you want to execute it on a IE, you need IE driver. If you want to execute on a maybe on a Firefox browser, you need a Firefox driver, right? So where do I get these drivers? This is the first question, right? So of course go to Selenium HQ download section, and if you see here, just scroll down, and here do you see here we have third-party drivers or bindings or plugins, right? So here from here we need to download Chrome executable, right? Chrome driver. So all I have to do here is just click on this 2.33 and just download the driver, right? So if you see here, you have a 32-bit. So for all OS you have specific drivers. For example, Linux, then you have Mac and Windows 32. So for Windows 32 and 64 they have the same executive. Okay, so let me just download this. So if you see, I have downloaded the Chrome driver, right? Now of course guys, as I mentioned, if you plan to run it on maybe IE, you also need IE driver as well, right? So, or if you want to work on Firefox, you also need a Firefox driver. So again, for Firefox, we have something called as Mozilla Gecko driver, right? So again, I will click on this version and I will download, right? So if you see here, again, I will download, let's say Windows 64 driver, right? Right. Similarly, I can also download Windows 32. We just need Windows 64 because my machine is Windows 64, so I'm downloading Windows 64, right? Similarly guys, I'm gonna download IE driver as well, right? So if you see here, we have IE driver as well, right? So again, I will download 32-bit and 64-bit as well. See, of course I don't need both of them, okay, any one should be fine, but since I'll be sharing this executables with you, since I have to share these executables with you, so I'm just downloading all of them. Okay, now so if you see, now if I go to my downloads, okay, and if you see here, just a second, okay, these are the different drivers I've downloaded, correct? So let's unzip this. Okay, let me do that. 1 second. Yeah, so if you see here, it has downloaded this Chrome driver. Okay, and where it is now, let me search. Okay, do you see guys, this is the folder where I have downloaded. Okay, so let me go here, okay, and pick this. Okay, before that let me rename, it's not looking good. Okay, and or rather let me go to the folder which I created on my machine where I generally keep all the jars, okay, jars and executable, right? So let me go here and copy the path. Alright. Now all you have to do is just go to your Selenium, okay, and even before you launch your this browser, okay, you need to set the path, okay, and what is that path? This one, right? So I'll just copy this property and I'm gonna say here system dot set property, okay, like this. This is the property name, and what is the value of this property? This will be the value, correct? Like this, okay. Just escape this backward slash, guys, because of course these are special characters, so you need to escape them. So I'll just escape them like this, okay. Now if you see, I've set the driver path, okay, here, and then I'm creating an object of Chrome driver, and then I'm navigating to a specific website, right? Driver path. Then I'll say I'm create let's say object of driver, right? And then navigate to a specific URL, right? Now if you see, guys, now if I execute this code, so if you see here, it has said started Chrome driver, and see, do you see it has launched the browser, and then it is navigating to that seleniumhq.org downloads. Do you see the same? That's what I had written here, right? So I'm launching the driver, I'm launching the Chrome browser first, and then I'm navigating to the specific URL, right? Understood? Now keep this in mind, guys. This line itself will launch the browser, okay? And whereas the line number 16 will navigate to this URL on that browser, okay? Now, very simple, right? Now, of course, when I launch a website, I want to close it, right? So what I'm going to do here, I will write something called as, let something say driver.quit, okay? We'll come across this, what is dot quit and dot close, okay? There are dot close as well, okay? So dot quit is a method which will kill the process which was started by Selenium WebDriver, and it will close the browser, okay? So if I execute this code now, you see it has launched the browser, and see it has closed it as well, right? So this is a method, dot quit is a method which will close your browser as well as its process, basically, right? Now now if I want to do the same operation on Firefox, what will be the change, right, guys? So it's very simple, okay. All I'm going to do here, just copy paste this code, okay. And if I want to do this on Firefox, all you have to do is just change the driver to Firefox, right? So I will just say here maybe Firefox browser, right? So now for Firefox, the property which you need to set is gecko, basically, right? Gecko is the driver basically we need for Firefox, right? And again, just go here, okay, and take the version of this gecko. Sorry, take the path of this gecko driver, right? So I'll just take this much. I'll go to my code and I will change it over here. Correct? Because if you want to execute anything on Firefox, you need the driver to interact with it, right? As I explained in this diagram, correct? You need the specific drivers, the browser drivers. Now I've specified the gecko driver, which is for Firefox, Mozilla Firefox. Then create the object of respective class, for example Firefox driver, okay. So I will create Firefox driver instance, right? So let me say f underscore driver, right? Import the class in your program, right? So I've imported it like this, okay. And then simply you're gonna say here this f underscore driver dot get and then quit, right? Very simple, correct? So if you see here, now let me remove this code, or rather let's see if we can comment this code, right? So now if I execute this code, okay, what it should do, it should set the property for your Firefox driver, Firefox browser, then create an instance of Firefox, okay, and then guys, then navigate to so and so URL and then quit the program, quit the browser. Just a second, what is the issue I'm getting here? Okay, yeah. Now if I execute this program, you will see a Firefox browser. See, this is a logging, guys, okay? You can disable this logging as well. Do you see it has launched a Firefox browser, okay? And it will go to that specific URL, yeah, and then it has quit, right? Let me execute in a debug mode so that you can see it, right? I'll put a debug point over here, okay? And let's execute this in a debug mode, right? So if you see line 24 will launch Firefox browser. See, do you see it has launched the Firefox browser? Now it will stop the program, right? And then if I say step over, it will navigate to that URL, correct? See, it has navigated to this URL, right? Now what I'm going to do here, I will simply do a step over for this one, right? Quit. So if you see, it will quit the browser. Do you see it has quit the browser, right? Now guys, while okay, now while executing this program, so okay, there are certain do's and don'ts, okay, for each browser, so we'll come across them, okay. Now let's work on I, right? So how to launch website on I browser, right? So let me show you that now, okay. So let me comment out this code, okay. Now what will be the change, guys, for I? Of course, I'll just copy paste this code first of all, okay, because the code is absolutely same, just certain things will change, right? So in case of I, what will be the first change? Yes, can you guess? So the first change will be the property. So for Internet Explorer, the property is webdriver.i.drive, right? Whereas this will also get changed, right? So let me go here, okay, and let me take this Windows 32, right? Now let me copy this ID server path, okay, and let me put it over here, correct? So I'm now in my this property is pointing to this particular driver which is specific to Internet Explorer, correct? So let me escape this backward slash, right? Now what next we have to do here, we need to create an object of I, what guys, I driver, correct? So let me create that. Oops, 1 second. So why it is not selecting driver, right? So just say here I driver now. So I'll just say Internet Explorer driver, correct? I'm creating an object of Internet Explorer driver and I'll assign it to the Internet Explorer driver, right? So this is the I object. Now with the help of this reference or object, I will simply say dot get and dot quit, right? Now guys, while executing or while launching website on Internet Explorer, you have to keep certain things in mind, right? And what are them? Okay, so the very first thing is, guys, okay, that you need to make sure the zoom level of your IE browser is 100%. Okay, so let me launch my IE browser first. So if you see here, okay, go to settings and you see now the zoom level is 95%, so I'll make it to 100%, correct? Now this is one setting. The another setting is that you have to go to internet options, and do you see, guys, there's something called as security, right? And under this security tab there are different zones, internet, these are different zones, right? So what you have to do, you either check these zones or uncheck, right? So if you see I have checked all of them, right? Or you uncheck it, you have to just check it or uncheck it, all the zones they should have the same setting, right? So these are the two settings you have to do on I before you execute any code, right? Now so I'll say all zones should be turned on or off, right? Now having said this, so I've done all the settings. Now let me execute this code, okay, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so if you see here, okay, again it has launched the IE browser, and then it navigated to so and so URL, and then it has closed the program, correct? Now guys, while executing these programs, you would see something coming on the console in the red color, right? Don't worry, this is not an error, rather this is the logging for the specific drivers which we are using, right? For example, now I executed this code for I driver. So do you see it says started Internet Explorer server, right? And this is the version of the executable which we are using, right? This one, okay? And listening on so and so port. So this is the logging, don't worry, okay? This is not an error. All right, so I hope you are able to understand how to launch a website on different browsers, right? So it's very easy, right? So as I mentioned in the earlier session that Selenium is all about commands. So if you see here, I'm using the first command as get. Is nothing but a method, right, of this particular driver, right? And dot quit is another method, right? All right. All right, guys. So now, of course, if I want to launch any other website, maybe let's say I want to launch, let's say Amazon. So all I have to do is just copy this URL, okay, and put it over here, right? Now, guys, just keep in mind you cannot write down www here. This HTTP is very much required, okay? So to avoid those mistakes, what you do, just launch the website manually, copy the address, okay, and put it over here, right? So if you see the same code, now if I execute, I've changed the URL, it should work as it is, right? Of course, it should now navigate to amazon.com. So if you see, it has launched the browser, and then it will navigate to Amazon, and then it should close it. See, it has closed the program, correct? All right, guys, thank you for watching this video. So in the next video we would talk about what are different commands to this driver. For example, getting a title of the browser, or maybe getting the current URL. How do you maximize, how to define timeouts, and so on and so forth. Okay, all right, thanks for watching this video.